This is the all-new VanPowers UrbanGlide. There are 3 different versions. What I have right here is the standard model. This has a cadence sensor, a 500-watt hub motor in the back, and a 48-volt 15 amp hour battery in the middle. And as you can see, they offer a very nice step-through bike. The Pro model bumps this up to some slightly better specs with a torque sensor, and then there is also an Ultra model which uses a Bafang M600 mid-drive. But all 3 of these are geared towards doing exactly the same thing. As the name implies, Urban Glide. This is a city bike, an urban bike. They have decently sized 27.5-inch wheels, so it rolls quite nicely. But I gotta ride it around and do some urban things and see if this bike is a home run. Yeah, I came to the ball field just so I could say that line. So number 1 on the urban things to do list is we're gonna ride through a local park. We've already been to the ball field. Let's see what else we can do. Right in the middle here, you can see that this has a really nice TFT display. I think they said I can't remember, it was 3.5 inches or it's that big. But one thing it is very clear and extremely detailed. This has, I don't know how many pixels on it or what the rating is for a TFT display, but displays like this don't look like the average e-bike display. This almost looks like a smartphone screen, and it is quite nice. It shows all the usual things, pedal assist, how far you're going. That is quite a steep hill I just went up. I just bumped the assist all the way up to the max of 5, and it had no problems hauling me right up. Even though it's only a 500-watt motor, on paper, I wouldn't be surprised if it peaks at 750. Seems to have plenty of torque. Now on the top end, this is a class 2 bike. It does max out at 20 miles an hour, and there's a very obvious cut at 20, and it really doesn't seem to want to go any faster than that. But your speed right in the middle of the screen is nice and big, really easy to read. You have a time in the top right, and that is the actual time of day. I've got the battery percentage on the right-hand side, and if we press the power button, we can cycle through the usual things: average speed, max speed, riding time. It says calories burned. There's really no way they would know that because this is a cadence sensor. Now you will notice there is a little link icon right in the top corner here, and that's because this bike also has its own app. Now for the basic functions of the bike, you really don't need the app for anything, which is the way I would prefer things to be. I really don't want to have to use an app to use an e-bike, but it does have other features. Okay, so now I've got the app open, and you can see here's the Urban Glide. The bike is connected, and you can see that it will actually zoom into my location. So there is a map function built in. So if you need directions, you can put this up on your handlebars like that. You have turn-by-turn direction, navigation, and you can see the app has some of the basic things that are on the screen: battery level, maximum speed, power rating, riding distance, and interestingly, the app says 800 watts. So, now if I click start riding, that's actually going to, I assume, track where I'm going. Now I know you can tap the search right here. It's hard to do with one hand. And I'm just gonna put in the local hardware store that's down the road, because that seems like an urban thing to do, right? To go to a hardware store. Little mini bike. So let's see how this works. I'm gonna click go. I don't know if anything shows up on the screen on the bike when you do this. I have no idea. We're just kind of figuring this out as I go along. I didn't really come prepared for this. I got camera in one hand, GoPro in the other hand. So I'm seeing on the app right now, it's showing the same speed that I have on the display for the bike, showing the same battery percentage. So it seems to work well. Subscribe! I don't even know what those kids were yelling at me. So I guess if you want navigation and all of your bike stats in one place and you don't want to have to look at your phone and the screen, you can do this. I don't know, it seems a little redundant maybe. You could just have regular Google Maps or whatever open on your phone. I'm not really sure what the point of the app is at this point. I'm gonna hit end ride. Oh, it says it only records it if it exceeds 1 kilometer or 5 minutes. So let's not end it. I'm gonna keep it going and see what sort of information it gives us. Sorry, you're just gonna go in my pocket for right now. But apps are becoming more and more common with e-bikes. In fact, I've got 4 different e-bikes that I need to review right now. And I know 3 out of the 4 have apps. Some of them have some really interesting functions that are pretty cool. Some of them are required for certain things on the bike to work. So on the standard model, we've got a 7-speed Shimano shifter, matching up to the 7-speed Shimano derailleur in the back. And I've got mechanical disc brakes front and rear. They work, they're not great. For a bike that only goes 20 miles an hour, they're gonna work just fine. The only exception or surprise, I would say, about this bike is the weight. It looks like a nice lightweight city bike, and if their website is to be believed, I haven't weighed the bike, I've just lifted it to kind of get a feel for, does that feel right or not? It says it weighs about 68 pounds, which seems kind of heavy for what this is. You've got about 10 pounds in this 48 volt, 15 amp hour battery, so nothing too crazy there. I think the tires are some sort of, puncture resistant tires. They might be a little heavier than normal, but nothing to explain that much weight. The suspension fork, fairly basic. I've got a lockout on the right, which I tested out. It 100% locks it out. It's really kind of a stiff ride if you have it locked. Preload adjustment on the left. So personally, I would just leave that suspension open and let it do its job for a nice, comfortable ride. Okay, I've successfully made it to the hardware store. I'm gonna click end ride. I don't know what that really did. Okay, so that's kind of cool. So it does give me on the app that my average speed for that specific ride, my max speed, the riding time. Most of those just interesting facts, but what I find useful is it says power consumption. So to get from the park to the hardware store, I used 2% of the battery, so not very much at all. It does go to show that a design like this is very efficient and rolls really nicely. What I think is interesting about that, or useful about that, is that because you have the power consumption from one location to another, if you start tracking that and doing that regularly from places you go, you would know very well how much battery it takes to get from one place to another. And it might help your range anxiety lessen, I suppose. So that actually is pretty cool. I like that. There's something you get from the app that you would not get from the screen. Let's see what else you got on the app here. So it shows the bike that's connected. What is this? Filters button. Oh. You can put an alert for the battery. Change the assist level from the display. Oh, that's interesting. So I'm changing the assist level on the app, and at the same time, you can see the assist level changing on the display in real time. No idea why you would need to do that, but you can. So it's got activities, which is the one I just recorded, and then it's also got hardware that might be showing like maybe when we charged the bike, possibly, and because this is brand new, there's nothing showing up. That's just my guess. Click this info button. I'm trying to tap on the bike You see, I'm tapping on the bike right here and nothing's happening. Oh, there we go. It changes the bottom part. Let's move this down. So this shows, it's like facts about the bike. I don't know what the point of this is, I guess. Oh, see, that's showing. That's the mid-drive version of the bike. I don't have that one. I got the hub motor. All right, just got out of the hardware store. Now that I've filled my pockets with nuts and bolts and saw blades and random things, it's time to go. I rode through a park. I rode on a paved bike path. I went to a store. I did urban things on the UrbanGlide. So going down the list of things that matter on an e-bike, power. Advertises a 500 watt. Over delivers on 500 watts, if anything, so the power feels great. Just don't expect to go more than 20 miles an hour because that's as fast as it wants to go. Also, the pedaling cadence, the gearing, the way it's set up is really set up for 20 miles an hour. So even if you're capable of pedaling faster than that, the gearing just isn't there. I'm in the highest gear right now. I'm pedaling pretty quick and I don't really want to pedal faster than that. So that's just what it's set up for. So power's good. Brakes are mechanical and could be a little bit better, if I'm honest. They stop, they work just fine. I'm sure after they break in a little bit, they'll be better, but they're a little mushy new. I do like the paint job. Everybody that's seen it, especially out in the sun, has been like, whoa, that's bright. And they like it. You have a green light, let's go. Let's go. I'll wait to a better spot for more commentary. It's too noisy. I'll do my best to get you a close-up of the pearly red color. I like it. It's a nice color. Z-Star, some generic brand of mechanical brakes. That kind of explains the performance. It does have an integrated headlight and brake light. The rear rack is rated for 25 kilos, a little over 50 pounds. It has fenders built in. This one actually feels, this looks plastic, but that's actually metal. So don't be fooled by the shape they've pulled off here. I've got the keys in my pocket. You stick them in right here to pop the battery out. Super easy to pull the battery in and out, no complaints there. The saddle is okay. I bet about 50% of people are gonna change that out to something else. Totally normal. Saddles are subjective and no one saddle's perfect for everybody. It's not the softest, most comfortable, it's just average. Now the bike is fairly upright. The handlebars have a gentle sweep back and it has an adjustable stem. So I've got it kind of mostly up with that combination and the bars having that slight sweep back, really comfortable. The only major flaw I can find with this is the weight. You are gonna find bikes that have most of the things this bike has and just weigh maybe 10, 15 pounds less. But if you feel more comfortable knowing that the frame, because that's gotta be where the weight is, weighs more and is possibly thicker or sturdier, maybe that's not a bad thing. Something interesting we've discovered lately is that, well, not that we've discovered this fact, but how to check it, all bikes have some flex to them. And that is a concern for step-through bikes in particular. When you don't have that triangular design, you lose a lot of the structural strength. So you have to design that in a different way. And we've figured out at the shop that there's two kind of key points where you can wiggle a bike and kind of match the frequency of the frame, and you can see how much flex is in the frame. And it's really hard to see on camera, but in person you can absolutely feel it. And you can do that by grabbing the end of the handlebar right here and kind of wiggling it side to side. And then it's hard to see, like I said, on camera, but in person, you can see the wobble between the head tube and the seat tube. I've actually taken and taped long, like, you know, a yardstick basically on the front back to here. And then when you do that, you can see that move back and forth, how much flex is in the frame. You can also do that just by grabbing on the saddle and kind of wiggling, doing the same thing, seeing how much the front of the bike moves as well. So I'm just gonna set the camera down and just give you my opinion of, does this bike feel, or does this bike frame feel strong, based on the very subjective and unscientific wiggle test. So if you get it just right, oh yeah, I can feel it. And every bike has it. Even full carbon fiber diamond frames, you can feel it. What you really want to look for, if you've got several different or a couple different bikes, you can do this and you can feel the difference between different bikes. The real big thing is, how quickly does that wobbling sensation go away? And if it goes away really, really fast, then you have a nice stiff frame and you're never gonna have or you're very unlikely to have a speed wobble issue. It means the frame is nice and stiff and strong. If you have this weird flexing that persists for a couple of seconds, then your frame is more flexible. You're more likely to encounter a speed wobble issue, and that means the frame is undergoing more stress back and forth. So this one, I can feel the wobble, but it dampens very, very quickly and goes away right away. So my opinion, unscientifically again, is that this frame is really sturdy and stiff, even for a step through. So I personally wouldn't have any concerns about this frame breaking or anything like that. I just don't see any reason to be concerned about that. It seems like it's quality made, and that's, I assume, where this weight is coming from. Suspension fork works just fine, nothing fancy, gets the job done. Lockout absolutely works, way too stiff for me if it is locked out, so I just left it unlocked for the whole ride as soon as I realized it was locked when I first hopped on it. Yeah, I mean, look at that head tube. That really is kind of big and beefy, and they've really just boxed that in with whole battery design. They do say this is a small frame. I would think this is maybe more like a medium frame. It doesn't feel small to me. It feels very comfortable. I'm usually comfortable riding a medium frame or a large frame. Usually a small feels cramped to me, and this doesn't. I feel like this bike fits me just fine at 5'10", but if you'll notice how far I've got the saddle up, you know, that's maybe 5-6 inches. Does this actually go all the way down? Let's find out. Oh yeah, that goes all the way down. Without having somebody else here to test it, you could probably have a 5-foot rider on this be comfortable, because the step through's low enough, the saddle goes low enough, and the bars sweep back far enough. That would probably be the limiting factor, but it seems to me like this bike could fit quite a wide range of heights. Now at the moment, I actually have no idea how much this bike cost, because it hasn't come out yet and I didn't get that in the email yet. So I'm hoping I get that before the video is released so I can add it in here. I'm gonna take my best guess, not knowing, being completely in the dark. We've got 27.5-inch wheels, 500 watt hub motor, 15 amp hour battery. Most of that leads me to believe, with the mechanical brakes, that this is a sub $1,500 bike, under $1,500, somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500 is where I think they should be. The only thing that's throwing me off a little bit is the TFT display and the app, which might add some cost to this. So I'm just gonna take a stab in the dark and say this bike's gonna retail for $14.99. Probably they might do an introductory price that's lower than that. We'll find out in the next clip if I was right. So I gotta jump in and say they killed it on the price. The standard version I have, retail, is $12.99, which I think is really good. The early bird price is $10.99, so $1,099 for this bike. I think that is awesome. The pro version retails $18.99. The pre-order price, or the early bird price, is $16.49. The Ultra version retails $24.99, and the early bird is $21.99. So out of all of these, I think the standard, which I have, is probably the best deal. $10.99 for this bike, $12.99 retail. Really can't go wrong with that. Thanks again to VanPowers for sending me the bike. It was a pleasure to ride and do some urban things today. There is a link in the description to where you can get one. Now the question is, are the bolts I got the right size? They should be just enough length that when I drill a hole, they go through here, and that looks perfect. It really couldn't have been closer. And they're supposed to fit snugly through here, and it does. Awesome. That's for another video, but I'm glad that trip was worth it.